Now, he's a very complex, involved person. I never get tired of him. He's got his own sense of humor. He's got his own way of thinking. He's not involved in the music business at all, but he loves music. And we're different, but yet we just are so compatible.
Dolly Parton passed away on August 25, 2026, in Nashville, Tennessee, at the age of 80, following a brief battle with cancer. Her family said she died peacefully at the Vanderbilt Ingram Cancer Center, surrounded by loved ones. With her death, the world lost one of the most beloved entertainers in American history, and her family lost a woman they simply called sister, aunt, granny, and Gigi. But behind the outpouring of grief sits a financial empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars, one that took nearly 6 decades to build, and that now raises a difficult question: who gets it all? Stay with us, because in this video we're going to walk through how Dolly Parton actually built her fortune, what is publicly known about her estate planning, and why the people closest to her insist that no amount of money could ever replace what they lost. Dolly Rebecca Parton was born on January 19, 1946, in a one-room cabin in the Great Smoky Mountains of Sevier County, Tennessee. She was the fourth of 12 children born to Robert Lee Parton and Avi Lee Parton, a family so poor that Dolly often spoke about not having shoes that fit or enough food to go around. What the family lacked in money, though, they made up for in music. Dolly grew up singing in church and on the porch with her relatives, and by her early teens, she was already making appearances on local radio and television around Knoxville. The day after she graduated from high school in 1964, Dolly boarded a bus to Nashville with nothing but a suitcase and a stack of handwritten songs. It's the kind of origin story that sounds almost too perfect for a country star, but it happens to be true. She signed with Monument Records not long after arriving, and by the late 1960s, she had joined the Porter Wagoner Show, a nationally syndicated country music program that gave her real exposure for the first time. Working alongside Wagoner made Dolly a star, but it also came with tension. She has spoken for years about wanting creative independence, and in 1974, she finally struck out on her own. That same period produced 2 of the most important songs of her career, Jolene and I Will Always Love You. Both became instant staples of the country genre, but I Will Always Love You would go on to have a second life that neither Dolly nor anyone else could have predicted at the time. Over the course of her career, Dolly Parton is credited with writing more than 3,000 songs, an almost unthinkable body of work for any single artist. That catalog became one of the most valuable assets she owned, independent of her performing career entirely. Publishing rights generate royalties every time a song is streamed, licensed for film or television, performed live by another artist, or used commercially, and Dolly's catalog checked every one of those boxes for decades. The clearest example of just how valuable that catalog became is I Will Always Love You. Dolly wrote the song in 1973, reportedly inspired by the end of her professional partnership with Porter Wagoner. Years later, Whitney Houston recorded a cover of the song for the 1992 film, The Bodyguard, and it went on to become one of the best-selling singles of all time. Because Dolly retained the publishing rights to the song, every copy sold and every radio play sent royalties directly to her. That decision to hold on to her rights wasn't an accident. According to accounts that have circulated for years and resurfaced after her death, Elvis Presley's team once approached Dolly about recording I Will Always Love You, but only on the condition that Presley's manager, Colonel Tom Parker, receive half of the publishing rights, which was standard practice for Presley at the time. Dolly turned the offer down. It's often cited as one of the most financially significant decisions any songwriter has ever made, because it meant that when Whitney Houston's version became a global phenomenon nearly 2 decades later, Dolly kept every dollar of publishing income that resulted. As significant as her music catalog was, it wasn't even the largest piece of her fortune. In 1986, Dolly partnered with Hersch Family Entertainment to convert a small Tennessee attraction into what became Dollywood, a theme park in Pigeon Forge that now draws millions of visitors every year. Her ownership stake in the park, along with related resorts and water parks operating under the same corporate structure, is widely reported to be the single largest component of her overall net worth, outweighing even her substantial music publishing income. Dolly didn't stop there. Over the following decades, she built out a wider business portfolio that included a dinner theater franchise, an ownership stake in a Nashville hotel, clothing and cookware lines, and a baking mix partnership with Duncan Hines that put her name on grocery store shelves across the country. She also built a career in film and television that added yet another income stream on top of everything else. Her 1980 film debut in 9 to 5 was a major box office success and earned her an Academy Award nomination for the title song, which she reportedly wrote in a single afternoon. She followed that with roles in films like Steel Magnolias in 1989, along with television specials, a stage musical built around her catalog, and Netflix anthology series later in her career. By the time of her death, estimates of her total net worth varied widely depending on the source, ranging from roughly $450 million to as much as $650 million. Forbes has generally placed the figure closer to $450 million, driven primarily by her Dollywood stake and her publishing catalog, while other outlets have pushed the estimate higher once real estate holdings, licensing deals, and ongoing royalties are factored in. Whatever the precise number, virtually every account of her career agrees on one thing. This wasn't inherited wealth or single lucky break. It was the product of decades of relentless, deliberate work across multiple industries at once. Her achievements outside the business world only reinforced her stature. She won multiple Grammy Awards, a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, a Kennedy Center Honor, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom, placing her among the most decorated performers in the genre's history. She was also known for her philanthropy. Early in the COVID-19 pandemic, she donated $1 million toward vaccine research at Vanderbilt University Medical Center, funding that reportedly contributed to development work behind the Moderna vaccine. Years earlier, she had also made a major donation to a children's hospital in East Tennessee that was later renamed in her honor. That consistent pattern of giving is a large part of why many who followed her career expect her estate to lean heavily toward charitable causes rather than concentrating entirely in private hands. To understand what might happen with Dolly's estate, it helps to look at what happened just 17 months earlier when her husband, Carl Thomas Dean, died in March 2025 at the age of 82. The two met outside a Nashville laundromat on Dolly's very first day in the city and remained married for nearly 60 years, an extraordinary run by any celebrity standard. Unlike his famous wife, Dean spent decades deliberately avoiding public attention, rarely appearing at premieres or award shows alongside her. When Dean died, it came out that his will, originally signed back in 2013, directed his entire estate into a trust established in Dolly's name, along with virtually everything he personally owned. Reports also indicated he left a handwritten note naming specific nieces and nephews who were to receive certain personal items, with Dolly herself given responsibility for distributing anything not explicitly listed. That level of specificity suggests the couple had been thinking seriously about legacy and estate planning long before either of them passed away. Dolly more or less confirmed as much herself. In a 2020 interview with Billboard, she revealed that she and her longtime manager, Danny Nozel, had been working with an estate attorney for years to put her affairs in order. She was candid about why, saying she never wanted to leave a mess behind for her family to fight over, and describing the process as painful but necessary for any artist with substantial assets to protect. It's a notably practical instinct from someone so often associated with glamour and spectacle, and it strongly suggests that whatever her will ultimately says, it wasn't written hastily or as an afterthought. Still, having an estate plan and having the public know what's in it are two very different things. When Carl Dean died, Dolly kept the details of his funeral limited to immediate family and thanked fans publicly for their support without granting interviews about her grief. That same instinct toward privacy is expected to shape how her own estate is handled, meaning the details could remain guarded for a long time. Here's where Dolly Parton's situation becomes genuinely unusual, even among wealthy public figures. She and Carl Dean chose not to have children, something she spoke about openly for years, once joking that growing older, without kids meant the two of them never had anyone else to worry about. With Dean having died first and no children of her own, Dolly passed away without either of the two categories of heir that typically simplify an estate the most, a surviving spouse and direct descendants. What she did have was an enormous extended family. She was one of 12 children herself, and by the time of her death, she had 6 surviving siblings along with a reported 14 nieces and nephews. Her nephew Brian Seaver, who also served for years as her head of security, stepped forward to announce her passing publicly, a responsibility she had reportedly asked him to take on years in advance. As of this recording, no verified copy of Dolly's will have surfaced publicly, and her family has made no statement detailing its specific contents. Based on her own long history of public comments about her values and priorities, many analysts and entertainment reporters expect a significant share of her fortune to flow toward the causes she cared about most, rather than staying concentrated among relatives. Her imagination library, the literacy nonprofit she founded that mails free books to children from birth through age 5, has distributed well over 200 million books since it launched, and she frequently described it as central to how she wanted to be remembered. There's also genuine complexity surrounding her business holdings specifically. Her ownership stake in Dollywood exists inside a corporate partnership structure with Hirsch & Family Entertainment, which means that stake can't simply pass to a relative the way a house or savings account would. Any transfer of her interest in the park, along with her music publishing rights, will likely depend on trust structures, corporate agreements, or other estate mechanisms that haven't been made public and may not be for some time. So while headlines keep repeating figures somewhere between $450 million and $650 million, the honest answer is that nobody outside Dolly's closest legal and financial circle currently knows exactly how that fortune will be divided. That uncertainty is part of what makes this moment so difficult for her family to process, on top of everything else they're already carrying. Whatever legal uncertainty surrounds her estate, it comes nowhere close to explaining the depth of grief that followed Dolly's death. Her family chose to announce her passing through a video message rather than a written statement, delivered by Brian Seaver on behalf of what he described as both the Parton and Owens families. He explained that Dolly had personally asked him years earlier to be the one to eventually deliver that news, something he said he had imagined many times without ever fully feeling its weight until the moment actually arrived. In that message, he described a responsibility as an honor mixed with pride and heartbreak in equal measure, and he reassured fans that the sadness belonged to those left behind, saying Dolly had been reunited with Carl, her parents, and other loved ones who had gone before her. The emotional toll on the family runs deeper than a single announcement. Dolly's sister, Stella Parton, had already grieved both Carl Dean's death and the death of their brother, David Wilburn Parton, in the months before Dolly's own passing. That means the extended Parton and Owens family has now had to publicly process multiple significant losses within a remarkably short window of time, all while the world was watching. Tributes poured in almost immediately from across the entertainment industry, with musicians, actors, and public figures honoring her legacy. Television networks rearranged programming to air retrospectives and specials built from decades of archive interviews and performances, while fans gathered at Dollywood itself to pay their respects in person. For a family already worn down by back-to-back losses, watching that kind of outpouring unfold in real time has reportedly been both comforting and completely overwhelming at once. What makes this moment especially heavy for the people closest to Dolly is the sheer scale of what they now have to manage alongside their grief. There's a fortune worth hundreds of millions of dollars, a theme park that employs thousands of people, a publishing catalog that continues generating royalties every day, and a charitable foundation that touches the lives of millions of children. Sorting through any one of those things would be a significant undertaking for a family in the best of circumstances. Doing all of it at once, while still absorbing the loss of someone who was simultaneously a sister, an aunt, and one of the most beloved entertainers in American history, is something else entirely. The exact terms of Dolly Parton's will may stay private for months or even years, and given how carefully she and Carl Dean handled their affairs while they were alive, that kind of discretion would fit the pattern they set. But one thing is already clear regardless of what the eventual paperwork says: the dollar figure attached to her estate only tells part of the story. Her music will keep playing on the radio and in movie soundtracks for generations. Dollywood will keep welcoming visitors to Pigeon Forge every season. Her imagination library will keep mailing free books to children who will grow up never having had the chance to meet her. Those parts of her legacy are effectively guaranteed to continue. But for the family she leaves behind, no inheritance, no matter how large, replaces the person who sat at their table for decades, who showed up for holidays and hard times alike, and who they simply knew as family long before the rest of the world ever heard the name Dolly Parton. That, more than any number reported by Forbes or any other outlet, is the real weight of what she left behind. Thank you for watching. If you found this video meaningful, consider liking, commenting, and subscribing for more coverage like this.